Rules for radicals defeated. Good morning, it's Monday, June the 8th, and this is The Drill. Thank you very much. I'm Ron, your host and the only true conservative in the United States today. I created this podcast to answer the question most asked by conservatives, namely, what can I do? My podcast is short, approximately 5 to 10 minutes long, because shorter podcasts are easier to download and listen to. I've been listening to conservative talk radio since '89. I've grown up in a socialist household, and I've learned the tricks of socialism. My podcast is made available through Spreaker and can be heard on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and YouTube. Today, what can I do? Quote of the day, the pressure on the left and rules for radicals defeated. All that when I come back. Thank you very much. What can I do? Know the difference between a good and a bad interview. The following audio clip is an example of a good interview. It's an interview conducted by Senator Lindsey Graham of Attorney General Barr in the Senate last year. Let's take a listen.
As to where we go forward, as to how we go forward, would you recommend that this committee and every other committee of Congress do our best to harden our infrastructure against future Russian attacks?
Absolutely, yes.
You think Russia is still up to it?
Yes.
You think other countries may get involved in our elections in 2020?
Yes.
So you would support an effort by Congress working with the administration to harden our electoral infrastructure?
Yes.
Is that one of the takeaways of the Mueller report?
Yes.
Do you share my concerns about the FISA warrant process?
Yes.
Do you share my concerns about the counterintelligence investigation, how it was opened and why it was opened?
Yes.
Do you share my concerns that the lack of professionalism in the Clinton email investigation is something we should all look at?
Yes.
Do you expect to change your mind about the bottom line conclusions of the Mueller report?
No.
Do you know Bob Mueller?
Yes.
Do you trust him?
Yes.
How long have you known him?
30 years roughly.
Do you think he had the time he needed?
Yes.
You think he had the money he needed?
Yes.
You think he had the resources he needed?
Yes.
You think he did a thorough job?
Yes, and I think he feels he did a thorough job and had adequate evidence to make the calls.
Do you think the president's campaign in 2016 was thoroughly looked at in terms of whether or not they colluded with the Russians?
Yes.
And the answer is no, according to Bob Mueller.
That's right.
He couldn't decide about obstruction. You did. Is that correct?
That's right.
You feel good about your decision?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so the interview was useful and informative. The interviewer did try to steer the conversation in one aspect. He did use he did try to lead the witness one time. But other than that, he did not try to steer the conversation and did not try to lead a horse to water and then make him drink. This is the kind of interview that the White House press corps should be doing, the kind of interview that sports reporters should be doing. If they, reporters, did, we would all be better off. So when I come back, we're going to have the quote of the day. Thank you. The quote of the day is from the devil worshiper Saul Alinsky himself. Quote, lest we forget at least an over-the-shoulder acknowledgement to the very first radical from all our legends, mythology, and history. The very first radical known to man who rebelled and did so effectively that he at least won his own kingdom. Lucifer, unquote. Up next, the pressure on the left. Thank you. The pressure on the left is enormous. The left has set about the task of creating paradise, not just making some improvements on the margins, but paradise, perfection. The left is also in a hurry. They want paradise and they want it right now. So there's added pressure on the lefties. I mention this because I hear faux conservative callers to Rush Limbaugh's show gushing with admiration about the left, about how disciplined they are, about how dedicated they are. When you stop and think about how much pressure they're under, you will stop admiring them and start pitying them. When I come back, one of the rules for radicals. Thank you very much. I'm going to read Rule 1 from Rules for Radicals Defeated. I want you to think about the recent riots as I do. The book Rules for Radicals Defeated is by Jeff Hedgebeth, and this is Chapter 1. Power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. Explanation. In the chapter of Rules for Radicals entitled Tactics, Alinsky states his first rule as, power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. The quote at the head of the chapter on tactics is, quote, "We will either find a way or make one," unquote, attributed to Hannibal. As I mentioned in the previous chapter, moral dualism is his way of allowing the devil on one shoulder to hold as much sway over his thoughts and actions as does the angel on the other shoulder. However, what we see in Alinsky and what we typified in the first rule is not dualism as much as duplicity. And Alinsky alerts us to his willingness to embrace duplicity with the very first rule. After all, what is Alinsky really saying? He is saying that it doesn't matter who you are, it only matters who people think you are. In Alinsky's mind, to hide behind a mask is completely acceptable so long as you have the proper end in mind. Of course, as we saw in the previous chapter, the end may justify the means for Alinsky, but he fails to take into account that he is choosing the ends for his followers. He becomes de facto king, dictator, and chief of the thought police simply by claiming that what he seeks to accomplish is the right thing, and that even if it could be achieved another way, it doesn't matter, because so long as his ends are reached, nothing else matters. The essence of Alinsky's first rule is that you do not have to have the numbers or any real power. You can organize in such a way that you appear to have more power than you do. Marches and planned occupations like Occupy Wall Street are prime examples of this type of behavior. Occupy Wall Street claims to be the 99%, but in numbers they are more like the 0.01%. With the complicit media, they are able to appear larger and more influential than they truly are. Alinsky's point with the first rule is even if you don't have the numbers or the power, you can make it look like you do. Power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. While this may be effective, it is also dishonest. This is not, quote, fake it until you make it, unquote, which is a valuable tool to correct your behavior. This is, quote, fake it until you make them do it your way, unquote. He has no problem hiding behind a facade to reach his goals. He sees nothing morally corrupt about pretending to be what he is not in order to convince others to think and act in ways he deems appropriate. And so that was at least part of the first tactic from Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, and it's from the book Rules for Radicals Defeated, and again, when you put, by Jeff Hedgebeth, and when you look at this in light of the riots, you can see some of the same things. You have the people that were rioting were very, very small in number, but what they did to make themselves appear larger is blend in with the tens of thousands of people that were peacefully protesting. So when I come back, it's going to be the conclusion. Who is the true conservative? He's the person that has the courage of his convictions and is confident in what he knows. He is the person that understands that cultural conservatism is more important than political conservatism. He's not selfish, but minds his own business. He acts like an adult. He's patriotic and uses common sense. He expresses what he knows and does so with certainty. He makes judgments, refuses to speculate, speaks clearly and definitively, and is not afraid to say no. He's open-minded, asking why rather than why not. He is consistent, credible, and influential, not ashamed of his existence, unafraid to learn or correct his mistakes. He's a normal American, and he's better than the socialist. He's a better friend, father, brother, family member, and a better person, period. You have to know that. If you don't know with every fiber of your being that being a true conservative is best, then you are wasting your time. That brings me to the end of another episode of The Drill. Remember, be honest, be smart, and be beautiful. And always ask yourself, what is real? How do I know? What do I do about it? I'm Ron, and that's The Drill.